All right. So, Steve, how you doing, brother?
Man, I'm tired as hell, brother.
Yeah. Man, so what's becoming apparent now is that really the corrupt Sheriff Bianco in the Riverside County is in cahoots with the LVMPD. Now, you witnessed something, so let's kind of get us up to speed on what you witnessed happen on October 13th and October 14th. Drive us through the events, and then I'm going to have some questions.
That was a Sunday, October 13th.
Yeah.
So your parents called me up and told me that there was a business card left on their door from Tullio, Tullio, Pandullo, Pandullo, a sergeant with the Southern Nevada Counterterrorism Center.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to know if they should call or if they wanted me to call, but they wanted you to find out. They wanted you to know about it and make that recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think anybody contacted you, and we just left it alone. But your parents told me that the officer was banging on the door, trying to gain access, was pounding on the door real hard, and eventually he left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the next day, October 14th, which was the Monday, your parents called me up and said there was a bunch of police officers surrounded the house, and they had flashlights going into the windows, trying to look into the windows of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted me to come over there. So I went over there, and there was about between 7 to 12 uniformed Metropolitan Police officers.
Mm-hmm.
And I parked, got out my vehicle, and I'm walking towards the house.
Mm-hmm.
And right away they were saying, "Hey, where you going?" And I'm like, "What do you mean where I'm going? I'm going over to this house right here." He goes, "Do you know them?" I'm like, "If I didn't know them, I wouldn't be going there. Of course I know them." And he goes, "What's your business there?" I'm like, "What do you want to know?" I'm like, "Why are you here? 12 uniformed cops. Why are you here?" "Oh, we're here to do a welfare check." I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Why are you here to do a welfare check? Everything is fine." He goes, "Did you speak to them?" I'm like, "Yeah, I spoke to them." And they were talking about your parents, your mom and dad. And well, we need to see them. I said, "Why do you need to see them for?" "Well, we got a call for a welfare check." So I said, "A welfare check? It takes a dozen officers to do a welfare check?" I thought it was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wanted me to come off the property. So, I came off the property. Although they didn't have any jurisdiction to kick me off the property. It wasn't a crime scene.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever allegedly happened in California had nothing to do with the state of Nevada. If it did, they would have had the FBI or the U.S. Marshal with them. Neither one of those two agencies were there. It was just the local LVMPD officers. So I called up your parents, and I'm on the phone with them. I'm saying, "Hey, there's about 7 to 12 uniformed cops out here. They're trying to gain access to the house. They don't have a search warrant. If they did have a search warrant, they would have kicked your door in a long time ago. Don't let them in." And at this time, your parents were at the window and they saw them. So I'm like, "Okay, so now you saw them. They're at the window." I'm like, "Who called this welfare check?" They wouldn't tell me who called the welfare check. But according to the website on the Metropolitan Police Officer's website, they're supposed to inform you who called for a welfare check. But in this case, they didn't want to inform me because realistically, nobody called for a welfare check. They were just there. And ironically, how they showed up the next day when the counterterrorism task force showed up the day before. And now they're showing up the next day. And I have never seen a dozen officers show up for a welfare check. It's usually one or two officers, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I'm talking to your parents. I hung up, And then there was a white pickup truck that pulled up, and it was the owner of the house. So apparently Metro called the owner of the house for them to gain access.
Which if I could interrupt you real quick, that's why my parents are being evicted, because the owner was called, the owner freaked out, the owner was led to believe, due to all this media, that I was trying to assassinate the former president, and now he has these elderly individuals which I caretake for, a house that I go to often to help my parents. And now that, as a result of that phone call is why my parents are being evicted, and they've been roped into this, essentially being put through torturous circumstances for an elderly couple who are too old to move, who are too frail to move, and now they're being attacked. So resume.
Absolutely. That's exactly why the owner got involved, is because of the phone call Metro made to the owner. So the owner gets out of his truck, and right away I called your parents up again. And I said, hey, the owner is here. You guys have a lease agreement, so you don't need to let him in. Mm-hmm. The owner went back in the truck when he heard me say that. And I'm talking loud because I want them to hear me. So right away, the Sergeant LeGraw yells out, I'm going to arrest you for obstruction of justice. So he's threatening me with arrest.
Question. When he's saying obstruction of justice, that now indicates that there's an investigation separate from what was already done in Coachella. The FBI and Secret Service said that this is a nothing burger. And now, essentially, it seems like these cops are going rogue against what was said by the FBI and Secret Service.
Absolutely. So right away, my response was, how could I be obstructing justice? This is not a crime scene. There is no yellow tape around here. You guys told me this is a welfare check, and you're stifling my First Amendment right. I said, what gives you the right to tell me I cannot give anybody legal advice? There is nothing that says I can't give somebody legal advice. How is that obstructing justice? Well, anyways, they couldn't answer my question. So another officer came and asked me to move away some more. So I went down to my truck, which wasn't far away. It was right across the street. And I started calling a couple of attorneys and let them know that this is elderly abuse by the hands of LVMPD. And I call up a judge friend of mine from the 8th Judicial District Court, and I was having a conversation with him. And I was saying it real loud so the cops will hear me, because I wanted them to hear me. And I'm like, Judge, I'm out here, and, and I described that I'm at your parents' house. I said, these LVMPD officers, this is elderly abuse. We have a 78 and an 81-year-old that's in the house. They're claiming they're doing a welfare check. It's a lie. It's not a welfare check. This is total harassment. They're trying to gain access to the home without a search warrant. They have no jurisdiction to be here. So I'm laying out all this, talking back and forth with the judge so they can hear me, and I'm saying it loud. So 4 cops come up and start walking towards me, and one of them was Sergeant LeGraw, Legrow. And I made sure I even spelled his name to him while I was looking at his name tag so I could remember it. So they come and they start approaching me, and I say, hey, Judge, I have to go because now I got 4 LVMPD officers coming to trying to intimidate me. And I already explained that they already threatened me with arrest, talking about that I was obstructing justice, but there is no justice to obstruct. The only thing I obstruct was the illegal behavior of the LVMPD officers. That was the only thing that I obstructed. So I hang up the phone with the judge, and the Sergeant LeGraw, he did most of the talking, but this other officer was asking me my name, and I said, you don't need to know my name. I said, what's your name? I said, if you want to know my name, run my license plate. My truck is right here if you want to know who I am. So the Sergeant LeGraw goes, he goes, you know what? I think I got everything. I think we got enough here. We got enough here. And I'm like, what do you mean you have enough here? You didn't get anything. All you've done was intimidate these elderly folks. That's elderly abuse. You threatened me with arrest for nothing, making up this dummy charge about obstruction of justice. And you're saying you're here for a welfare check, but you won't even tell me who called for a welfare check. And according to your website, you're supposed to tell the person who's calling for a welfare check. Whoever calls for a welfare check is not a secret. So I said, you're just making this up. And ironically, the day before, Terrorism Task Force was trying to gain access to the home. So, and I said, you know what? I need to call up your sheriff because this is where I'm at right now. So they all left. All dozen cops took off and left. Right away, I called the sheriff up, Sheriff Kevin McMahill. I made my case. I stated exactly what took place, just like I'm doing now, on a verbal communication. He text messages back to me, and he said that he has escalated the situation to his chief. And I said, well, the parents are now scared of law enforcement. And he said, I'm sorry that they are scared. And then he said that the officers will not be at that home anymore. And that's where it was.
So let me ask you, like, we've talked about this, and we've talked about how, well, let's go to you trying to now, you file a report, you're trying to get a copy of the report, and what happens? Give me the dates on what happens as you file the report and then try to chase up on the report, which I've already published, by the way, the report that you submitted. What happened there?
So October 15th, which was Tuesday, I contacted your parents. I said we need to file an IA report with Metro, which is Internal Affairs. And I went and picked them up. We head down to Metro substation on Metro headquarters on Martin Luther King. I contacted the sheriff by text. I said, hey, we're going to go down to Metro and file an IA report. Where do I go? Because I didn't want any kind of hangups. He told me exactly where to go. I went down there, and detectives were waiting for me. We went in there, and we filed 3 separate complaints and explained everything that happened that I witnessed. Your mother explained everything that she witnessed. Your father explained everything he witnessed. And we took copies of it. And as we were leaving, after I was driving away, I noticed that there was no incident number on there. Try to contact Metro. I call up that the detective that handles Metro's internal affairs, and I try to contact him several times, but he never contacted me back. He never returned any of my phone calls. And his name is Sergeant. Oh, he's with the LVMP Internal Affairs, Bryce Martin, Martine. And he never contacted me back, and I left 3 separate messages. In fact, I left another one yesterday, and I never got anything back. And all I wanted was the incident report number. So I never got that. We also filed a complaint with the Citizens Review Board. And according to the director of the Citizens Review Board, when there are more than one person that file a complaint about the same exact thing, the complaint is a lot more powerful. So let's see what they do with their investigation as well. But I still need to get the body cameras from that Sergeant LeGraw. I'm planning to do a Freedom of Information Act to see if I could get those body cameras.
So when you tried calling, and this is, let me check the date here. So from what I understand, you tried to call on October 29 to get an incident report, and you were, tell me about that conversation, because that sounded like a really weird conversation with the receptionist.
Well, when I first called, I identified myself. I said, hey, I was down there, and I needed to get an incident report. I gave them my name, and right away they were helpful, and they were the tone of voice was more pleasant. And then after, I don't know if they looked me up, or because they said they're going to be right back. I don't know if they looked me up, or they went and speak to somebody. And when that female came back on the phone, her tone of voice changed, and then she goes, "I'll have the investigator call you." Before, she was willing to help me herself, but now it curved, and now she says she'll have the investigator call me, the same name that I just told you.
What was the name again?
His name is Bryce, Bryce, Martin, Martine.
Okay.
And Up until now, he hasn't called me, and I've called 3 separate occasions.
So we're talking about your theory based upon what you've seen, your experience. You obviously have a lot of experience with police corruption, all other forms of corruption. For people that don't know you, you've been a watchdog force with veterans in politics in holding corrupt officials accountable. I mean, you've removed judges, lawyers, and called out a lot of corruption, held people accountable. You have theory. And police, exactly. You sued the police, the Metro, and won. Now, you have theories that this is, and things that we've talked about, that this is basically they're trying to, I guess, cover up your incident report on one hand, but also that they are trumping up charges against me in cahoots with Sheriff Bianco in order to shut me up. Tell me a little bit more about what your experience dictates in that. What makes you think that this is really what's going on?
Well, I contacted the sheriff and asked him for the incident report. He was very helpful in the past with all these other things, but he has stopped being helpful. He hasn't returned my calls. Mm-hmm. So I don't know exactly what's going on.
Okay. Now, in terms of, is there anything that would indicate that they're trying to cause me further trouble in order to cover up Sheriff?
Well, I look at it like this. Why was any anti-terrorism task force at your parents' location to begin with?
Yeah. Well,
why was there a dozen officers the following day at your parents' location? Why? And these are questions I would like to know. Why were they there? What was the purpose of their visit? Why did they lie and say that it was a welfare check when we all know it wasn't? I mean, anybody with half a brain could tell you it wasn't a welfare check. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And why would they try to shut me up by threatening me with arrests if this was just merely a welfare check? So yeah, so you know what? These things just don't line up. They don't make sense. And I think my personal feelings is that they were hoping that you were there so they could probably gun you down.
Yeah.
Why else would they be there?
Yeah. That's the feeling I get because, you have the feds and Secret Service say that this is a nothing burger on 12. And then you have these cops, anti-terrorism force show up. And by the way, if things are under the guise of terrorism, there's a lack of due process. They go into they could say, oh, this guy was a terrorist. We gunned him down. He was, and really complete the lies of Sheriff Bianco. That's my concern that was their goal.
Right. And I truly believe that myself.
You truly believe that they're there?
Why else would they be there?
Wow.
Why would they lie? And that's exactly what they did. They lie, and they're trying to use the power of their badge to intimidate citizens.
Now, in terms of them trying to, obviously they're trying to cover up this report. It's almost like they're biding their time in order to take some other action. What's your feelings about that sort of thing?
Well, I don't know what the inner workings is or what's going on in their head. These are just theories that I have for myself. And with all the corruption that I've seen throughout the years, this one just does not make any sense at all. No matter how you slice it and dice it, it just doesn't make sense.
Wow. And so what's going on with that report now, do you think? Are they they told you that the investigating sergeant was going to call. Obviously, he hasn't called. And now we're like over 2.5 weeks later, and there's still no report incident number. And you guys filed this report basically on the 15th.
Right.
15 days later. What's going on there?
I have no idea. No clue.
Wow. Do you think that what they did was so rogue and so unofficial, I guess? Obviously, they didn't have a warrant, that now they're trying to cover up the fact that this is a criminal department in terms of Riverside, now trying to have the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department do criminal things to cover up basically all of their criminality together, almost like interstate conspiracy, I guess you could call it.
Well, it just sounds to me like they're just digging a deeper hole.
Mm-hmm.
They know they screwed up over here, so they're trying to cover it up with this over here, but it's digging a deeper hole for them. If they just left it alone where it was at the very beginning and just be truthful about it, it probably would have been just an innocent thing. But the more and more that they lie, the more and more the hole gets bigger.
So, I mean, all right. Do you think they're trying to build a case against me? The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, obviously, thus far, the feds have gone through my information with a fine-tooth comb. Otherwise, the Secret Service would have not just said this is a nothing burger. So do you think a case on false pretenses is being built right now by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to further persecute me?
I have no idea. I mean, we could assume, we could guess, but we don't know for a fact.
Okay.
I know for a fact what happened on the 13th. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact what happened on the 14th. I know for a fact what happened on the 15th, but I don't know what's in their head. I can assume, but I don't know what's in their head.
The reason I ask is because Sheriff Bianco has gone on podcasts and he's made statements. Firstly, he said that, I don't know if the Secret Service are going to prosecute him for his passports, which there's nothing funky about my passports. I've been very upfront about it. I have 2 passports, one Canadian, one U.S. The Canadian one is under my birth certificate name, and the U.S. one, because I was traveling to foreign territories where an Armenian last name would get you killed, and I was an investigative journalist going to war zones, I changed it to a completely non-Armenian last name. But Sheriff Bianco keeps sending the message that via podcasts, via emails, that the Secret Service might prosecute me for my passport. Lately, he's changed that to now the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department might prosecute me for the passport, which doesn't make sense because that falls under the federal purview. But then he said things like, they might come after him for his registration or his license and things like that, which to me indicate that, why is he saying that if he's not talking to somebody else?
And how many people have issues with Department of Motor Vehicles? And plus, the vehicle wasn't registered to you in the first place. You know, I could, but I hear what you're saying. I can only talk about what took place at your parents' house.
Okay,
that's all I could talk about because that's what I have knowledge about.
Okay, but if you were to now, I'm just asking you based on your experience as being an investigator, a watchdog, somebody that's been in this field of uncovering corruption. And this is just your opinion, what do you think is happening? Do you think that they're trying to, bite their time to trump up some charges? I mean, what do you think's going on there with them not giving you?
Well, I already said that. I thought they came there to gun you down.
No, I understand that part. I mean, obviously they weren't successful in that, but going forward now, what do you think? What tricks do they have in their bag, or do they have tricks? Are we being paranoid? I mean, you tell me.
I think that they are thinking about what to do next.
Okay.
They're just buying time.
They're buying time by avoiding giving you an incident number on something that you filed, which seemed like a very conspicuous event that Sheriff McMahill first said that he's going to launch an investigation, and then he's gone quiet on you.
Exactly.
Wow. What do you think's happening with Sheriff McMahill?
I think somebody got to him.
And said what? What do you think?
I have no idea. But I think somebody got to him.
Here's the reality, Steve. The reality is that if you look at the legal precedent on what happened, this hit like global airwaves all around the country. Everybody that I've talked to said that they heard this, Vem Miller is a terrorist, Vem Miller is a terrorist, right? You look at the legal precedent of something like that, where you destroy somebody's life, and let's not forget, I will never be able to get a job. I will never be able to get a lease. Anytime Vem Miller appears anywhere, people are going to be not wanting to do business with that person, not wanting to have that person around. And that emanates from the lies of Sheriff Bianco, his deputy, Coronado, and the Riverside Police Department, right? So I'm trying to put this together. I'm definitely seeing cops in conspiracy with one another, because now you have the state agency doing welfare checks, quote unquote, with the anti-terrorism force. Seems as though this is like they're persecuting me. They're trying to intimidate and threaten me with this blue wall of silence, I guess you could call it.
I agree.
You agree with that? Okay. It's interesting. And now we haven't been able to get any so-called authorities to actually take care of this problem. What's next? I mean, what do you do? Is that like you contact the Attorney General? The feds have been contacted, but I don't know what's going on there. What are the...
Well, my suggestion to you is to contact the State Attorney General.
State Attorney General, Aaron Ford.
Right.
Aaron Ford.
Or the FBI Public Corruption Unit.
FBI Public Corruption Unit. Okay. All right. Cool. So, all right. Now, do you think, do you think that these individuals are going to be held accountable now? Is that like, is this police department, I mean, are they supposed to investigate themselves? Is like a higher power supposed to investigate them? What happens there?
Well, the police department does investigate themselves, which I think is like the fox watching the hen house. But
yeah,
I have that's totally in the preview of how the sheriff wants to handle it, if he wants to file any discipline charges. And according to the sheriff, he wasn't in town when that whole situation took place with the LVMPD.
Okay. Do you think Sheriff McMahill will step up and do anything, or where do you think this goes from this point forth?
Time will tell.
Time will tell. All right, Steve. Well, you know what we're going to do for the viewers out there. Steve and I are actually going to go to the police department, and we are going to film this, potentially live streaming, but we will film it and show you what happens. And we're simply going to go in there kindly and ask them for this incident report and find out what's going on. I mean, does that sound fair game, Steve?
I'll be more than happy to do that.
And then the FBI, we're going to try to do a report with the FBI as well. What are the, and you said going to, speaking with the Attorney General or doing a complaint with the Attorney General's office?
You could do that online.
You could do that online. Okay.
Matter of fact, you could also do the FBI complaint online as well.
Okay. One thing I want to tell the viewers is, as I dive into this case more, here's what Bianco did, right? And this is where precedent is important. What Bianco did in internationally defaming me and destroying, my life, attacks on my parents, attacks on their name, is very similar to the Alex Jones Sandy Hook case. Are you familiar with that, Steve?
A little bit.
So Alex Jones lost that lawsuit, and the parents that were defamed, their lives further destroyed, and this is according to the decision, they were awarded $1.5 billion. Okay, so it would seem as though my case against Riverside being actually equal to what they say that Alex Jones did, some say potentially even worse. I mean, firstly, let me ask you, you're aware about this Alex Jones case where Alex Jones was supposed to, according to the case, was defaming the parents, causing them, really terror because, he was saying that it was all set up. I mean, do you think this is equal what happened to me, less or more? I mean, what's your opinion in terms of the severity of what Sheriff Bianco did and then the ongoing persecutions that we're seeing by, these other police officers, anti-terrorism unit going and, persecuting my parents and that sort of thing? I mean, is it equal to, less, or worse than what Alex Jones was said to have done against the Sandy Hook families?
I think it's worse.
So we're talking about, like, that was a $1.5 billion judgment. We're talking about a potentially higher judgment, in your opinion.
Yeah, I think it's worse.
So that would basically bankrupt Riverside. So it would
LA County, did you file with LA County as well?
I haven't filed with LA County yet, but I should file with LA County?
I think you should.
Okay.
Doesn't LA County oversee Riverside County?
I believe so. You're talking about LA County Police Department or LA? Okay. So we're talking about a case that basically pretty much bankrupts the entirety of Riverside.
Absolutely.
Wow. And so it would seem as though, like,
it's all about money. Follow the money. That's what it is now.
It is now. Okay, it would seem as though there's a lot of incentive for a Sheriff Bianco and whoever's in cahoots with him. Now seems as though the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department are in cahoots with them. I mean, that would cause them a lot of loss. So it seems as though it would be cheaper just to kill me off or get me on false charges, continue to prosecute me. I mean,
no, it's beyond false charges. It's cheaper just to kill you.
It was cheaper just to kill you.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of their plan now?
I have no idea.
Okay, so everybody out there, just so you're aware, I think I'm being persecuted.
To make it look like an accident, and anybody that tries to help you, probably including myself.
Mm-hmm. And what would they do? Like to somebody like you?
Make it look like an accident, make it look like a robbery, make it look like a burglary, make it look like a home invasion.
Okay.
I mean, and the list is endless.
Because this Sheriff Bianco has essentially created a $2 billion potential deficit for his county. He could destroy the entire county, and so it's cheaper to kill off anybody associated with that situation. Or
if he faces any kind of repercussion, any type of sanctions or any type of criminal charges or any type of, you probably could sue him civilly too, and that might destroy his pension.
Well, no, he's already being
or any political ambitions that he might have will come to a screeching halt.
Do you think those have already come to a screeching halt now that it's out there that he?
I think so.
Yeah, he's already. It seems as though his political career is already done. Nobody takes him seriously. He seems very Second, Amendment type. But beyond that, so you're saying that just, it's $2 billion is a lot of money. I mean, Riverside basically becomes Vem country at that point. I mean, somebody was joking and saying that this is so bad that how do they get out of this deficit? What do you think about that?
Because they defamed you internationally. It's not just nationally. I mean, Great Britain, Canada. I mean, you're internationally defamed.
Mm-hmm. So, wow. So this is what's going on, guys. So, this is a police state now. Like, America is no longer the land of the free. I mean, you're looking at these rogue, police officers with their secret societies or whatever they got going on, where they're communicating amongst themselves, spawning this type of situation where elderly couple is essentially harassed, intimidated by the anti-terrorism unit. Then you have complaints disappearing. Steve Sanson not getting his phone calls returned about a complaint that was filed over 2 weeks ago. Seems as though they're out there. I mean, Steve, like they're just thinking, what are we going to do next? They're probably scrambling right now at this point.
And you can't even get a weapon. Is that correct?
I can't even get a weapon. No, I'm having to stay with people that have weapons in order to protect myself. But no, I can't even get a weapon because.
Do you have anything on your background that would prohibit you from getting a weapon?
No, other than the false accusations of Sheriff Bianco, that's all that's pretty much all I got.
And there you go. That's another complaint that you could file.
Yeah. So, Steve, I mean, what's your feeling about this country right now? You're a Marine. You fought for this country, land of the free, home of the brave. I mean, what's your assessment of where America is right now?
I think that we have some really bad people in power, and it's up to us to get rid of them.
Wow. Do you think it's possible?
I think anything is possible.
Do you think justice will ever be served in terms of the destruction that's been inflicted by these criminal officials upon my life, first starting in Riverside and now clearly infecting Nevada, Clark County, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department?
I think justice will be served if you're determined enough to get it served.
Yeah. I mean, we're quite determined. What's the next steps? I mean, you've been through challenges like this. How would you move forward if you're Vem Miller?
Well, I would get myself a bulletproof vest and wear one.
Yeah. Wow. So we're talking, I mean, we're kind of where USSR was back in the day. I mean, this is very Stalin-esque, where anybody that seems to stand up to criminals operating under the color of law is now to fear for their life.
And my advice to you is not to drive until this is over.
So, I mean,
you don't want to get pulled over for some stupid thing.
Potentially years, actually, that I wouldn't be able to drive. Wow. So years not be able to work, drive, not be. I mean, how do you people feel out there that this is even possible? Like, you're falsely accused, it's 100% BS, and then cops in another state become the Gestapo for the original criminal cop, and now they're trying to cover it all up because they realize that this is a $2 billion lawsuit. A lot of people could go down. Steve, let me ask you, imagine I actually got shot and killed. What happens next?
Then your parents should file a wrongful death lawsuit.
And what happens if they shoot and kill my parents? I mean, my parents are old. They might not be around.
Then the lawsuit is dead.
It's dead. So they might kill my parents just to shut it all up.
I have no idea.
What do you think happens if, the public knows what's happened, is the cat's out of the bag? do these individuals get away with their crimes? Is it
Well,
better?
there should be a public outcry about what's going on.
Mhm.
I think that the more complaints you file in various different jurisdictions or departments, the better off you'd be.
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you something. I mean, it's almost better off if I move to Moscow at this point, isn't it? Really? I mean, I would be protected over there and away from these thugs and criminals that are operating.
Well, you might end up from one one extreme to the other. I wouldn't recommend Moscow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just, I kind of said that jokingly, but I, I would be away from the police state, that's for sure,
A nice Caribbean island would probably work, like St. Lucas or something like that.
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right, Steve. Well, man, I appreciate your time. For the viewers out there,
Absolutely.
we're gonna go out there and we're gonna try to get these police reports. We're gonna film it. We're gonna see what shenanigans they have waiting for us. And this is what it is. This is where America is right now, where this sort of thing, this is the sort of thing we used to hear from the USSR, where somebody like that was an enemy of Joseph Stalin would be falsely accused of something. Next thing you know, the rogue forces come in, their, Secret Service officers come in and throw the person in jail, throw him on, get him off to Siberia, kill him off. I mean, this is where we are right now. We are in the communist states of America. I mean, am I exaggerating the problem, Steve? Or, I mean,
no, you're definitely not exaggerating. And people don't understand the limits that one will go to silence somebody until it happens to them.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So for the viewers out there, we've set up Give, Send, Go accounts. Please consider donating to our Give, Send, Go account. Links below, because we got a big battle ahead. And frankly, this could happen to your sons. This could happen to your daughters. This could happen to you because we are living in a police state. This is pretty much across the board corruption. Steve, there was one other thing I wanted to ask you, man, that talking about corruption. You had posted something about an individual running for office, erasing the name of another individual, both of them running for judges, just so the viewers could hear that. This is like going on across the board. Tell us what's going on there, Steve.
Well, you have a district attorney by the name of Hillary Heap that crossed out another district attorney's name, Susan Bauckham, that's running for Las Vegas Justice of the Peace. Susan Bauckham has been endorsed by the Republican Party. Her name was on a slate card, and Hillary Heap crossed her name out and added her name to the slate card, trying to confuse the voting member of our community.
I mean, isn't that illegal? What's going on there?
It's unethical. There should be a judicial discipline complaint filed against that individual, or a minimum of a state bar complaint filed. But there's a whole lot of corruption that goes on around here in Las Vegas, Nevada. You got an officer by the name of Bryant Yent that falsified a search warrant to get a judge to sign off on it. Did a no-knock search warrant, kicked in the door of a gentleman by the name of Trevon Cole, who was in the apartment with his pregnant fiance, and killed a man in cold blood. And all he was doing was dumping marijuana in the toilet, which is now legal, and just to get on the show Cops. And nothing was done with him. He was never criminally prosecuted. He cost the county $1.7 million in a wrongful debt suit. And he was put on desk duty, and now he's sitting as a board member of the LVMPD. I mean, these things go on all the time. But the thing is, if you stay silent and don't do anything about it, it could happen to you. So the thing is to make sure that we try to stop these corruptions, because it's an everyday affair.
So
and then when you don't do anything about it, it becomes normalized.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a normalized behavior, just like Matthew Harder. Rest in peace, Matthew Harder, the family court judge who perjured himself on mortgage fraud, bankruptcy fraud. He was a family court judge, and I go to to the U.S. Nevada State Attorney General's office, nothing is done. I go to the Board of Ethics, nothing is done. I go to judicial discipline, nothing is done. I file a complaint with the Supreme Court, and I think that's when stuff started to roll. And I even had to put up a billboard describing this guy as a fraudster, a perjurer, and put up a billboard on the Las Vegas Strip so people could see it. And then he eventually ended up killing himself. I don't know if that, because of what I did, caused him to kill himself, but you know what? Maybe it added to it. Maybe there were more problems. Maybe there were more problems than that. But these are the things that goes on. And if you don't hit the corruption in the butt, the corruption is going to come back and bite you. And if it doesn't bite you, it's going to bite somebody that you love, or somebody that you care about, or somebody that you know. And the thing about it, if we sit back as a society and turn a blind ear, or turn a blind eye and a deaf ear, these things could come back and bite us in the ass.
So are you saying that Matthew Harder was never brought to justice, but he just ended up killing himself because after your relentlessness, he realized he's going to eventually be called to justice?
I would say that there's a lot of truth in that.
Wow. So, for the viewers out there, we've been approached by a lot of whistleblowers within the Riverside County area. There's a gentleman by the name of, for example, that I just heard his story, Samuel Flores, who was a police officer. His wife was a police officer. They were persecuted by Sheriff Bianco. 3 years later, they're still clearing up their name after having their entire lives destroyed. Many individuals like that seem to be Sheriff Bianco's victims, who runs that Riverside Police Department, basically like a thug we're hearing about. And this is the realities of how things operate. He said, very much like Matthew Harder, by the way. I believe Matthew Harder made statements, "I am God." Is that correct at one point?
Yeah.
He said, "I am God" in court, and very much like that, Sheriff Bianco has made similar statements. Not exactly "I am God," but pretty much, fuck around, find out is one thing he keeps saying. Another thing is that he is all-powerful, is what he said to a lot of people. All-powerful. Again, he's trying to represent himself as God, and anybody that steps in the way of his corruption, it seems as though he wants to erase, and that's where we are as a country. Steve, any closing statements you'd like to make before we wrap?
Wasn't he a member of the Proud Boys at one time?
He was a Proud Boys member, then he's kneeling for BLM, and then he's got multiple instances where he runs the media essentially with false charges, trying to frame somebody, and starts talking about that, like this Samuel Flores police officer and his wife ran right to the media, said a whole bunch of nasty things about him, just like, he did with me, all which are untrue. And 3 years later, this gentleman is clearing his name. I mean, he's already cleared his name in terms of what Sheriff Bianco did, but the damage is still there after what Sheriff
and
Bianco.
Is he making over $500,000 a year being sheriff of
Yeah, he's making $600,000 a year, 300 from
more than the president of the United States.
More than the president of the United States. And apparently the board is in cahoots with him. The DA over there is in cahoots with him. They're all working together. It's not like the DA is holding this guy accountable. They're really working together to cover up their own corruption.
And then he campaigned in uniform. Campaign in uniform in a squad car on taxpayers' dime. I filed reports against him. I filed 2 against him, and 1 came back rejecting the whole thing.
Wow.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
This is the society we live in.
This is the society we live in. America's broken, and when I said stuff like Moscow, I mean, part of me is joking, but then I look at somebody like an Edward Snowden, who's being also persecuted by the government. He's being persecuted by the federal government. The federal government is not persecuting me. This is now turned into a state issue by rogue state agents. But you would see how somebody's like, you know what, I would be protected over there. Whereas what you're saying over here, I got to walk around with a bulletproof vest. I got to worry that they kill off me and my parents in order to cover this whole thing up. I mean, it's crazy. Anyway, Steve, any last words?
Yes, keep bringing attention to this, because that's how you survive. The minute you lay off and everybody think everything is quiet, that's when they're going to come after you. So you got to keep focusing and bringing attention to this, and bringing attention to everything that surrounds it, and bring attention to a lot of other corruption that's going on. And I'm sure you've been doing that before Blood Money in America happened. So just keep doing what you're doing. Stay like Oscar Goodman said to me many years ago, which was the former mayor of the city of Las Vegas. Stay in the media, stay alive.
Exactly. Stay in the media. And that's what we're going to do. Every single day, you guys are going to be hearing updates on this matter. You know, we're not going to bore you with nonsense, but unfortunately, there's so much corruption and criminal behavior. Now, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, you know, they call it anti-terrorism force. I would argue that they are a terrorism force. They are a force to terrorize the citizens and civilians that do not fall in line with their police state. I mean, that I think is what's going on. What do you think, Steve?
I agree with that. And you know what? Not all cops are bad, but the good cops got to stop pretending that nothing is happening. They got to come up to the plate, and they got to get rid of those bad cops, because there's a lot of bad cops out there.
Yeah, this could be your sons. It could be, you know, I mean, pretty much your children, your fathers. I mean, seems like everybody is a potential victim when somebody's life could be turned upside down overnight due to lies. Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you for joining us over here, guys. We're going to have so much.
Vem.
Unfortunately, this situation stinks to high heaven. Probably going to go on for a very long time, could drag out for years, but we're going to show you exactly what's going on, how America is unfortunately broken, stolen by these thugs, these criminals operating under the color of law, including Sheriff Bianco, his deputy Coronado, and now, unfortunately, members of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department that have decided to really, blue wall of silence, in persecuting their own civilians and citizens to cover up the crimes, the grotesque crimes of police officers. Thank you very much for joining us. I will see you all very soon.
Thank you, Vem. Steve Sanson, President of Veterans in Politics, and everybody that wants to tune into our program. We have a podcast as well on veteransinpolitics.org.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Steve.